Hi, I'm Dr. Allison Smith. I'm a professor here at UMass Global, and I am going to be talking about Cycle 2 in this video. Cycle 2 for our single subject candidates, and I'm going to focus specifically on Step 1. Step 1's the planning part of Cycle 2. If you've done Cycle 1, the organization is exactly the same, except there's a different focus for Cycle 2. So on the screen, you can see this is the performance assessment guide. This guide's available through registering with Pearson for Cycle 2. It's also part of your clinical practice courses as well as embedded throughout the program. So we're just going to go through the assessment guide focused on Step 1 for Cycle 2, single subject. Uh, I first want to alert you to make sure you're always looking at the correct performance assessment guide. There are multiple ones, there are different versions, and they're different for different credential areas. So this one's specific to single subject, and you always want to look that it is now the version 1.0. All other versions are outdated, so you want to make sure that this is the one you're going by. It significantly changed, so if you are using an older version, you will be missing out. All right, so I'm going to go through this. This is the preamble. This tells you basically the importance and the foundation of the Cal TPA, and you should read this so you know what the foundation is. But going through this, I'll also point out that in the table of contents, it organizes it all, and you can click on the specific section you want to go to. So if we're going to plan, I could select plan and it would take me to that section. I'm going to scroll through just so you can see what the document is all about. This is a really important document, and everybody should go through it all the way. Make sure you understand what the expectations are of the Cal TPA, and then you can go back and look at specific sections. But I'm going to walk you through it in case you haven't looked at it yet, or you do better with someone walking you through it. Okay, so we're going to go down here. There's acknowledgements, an overview. This tells you what Cycle 2 is all about. It is different than Cycle 1, so it's important to understand what the emphasis is on. So when you are completing it, you know, okay, this is what I need to do. Here you can see, I'll just point out, this cycle emphasizes the interaction between standards, assessments, and instructional decision making. So the really important thing is that you have standards, you assess those standards, they're connected, and then you design lessons that connect all of that. Uh, but read all the way through that. You'll see similarities to Cycle 1 with the asset-based instruction and UDL that continues to be foundational to teaching, and therefore it is also part of Cycle 2. Okay, and then it's all about student assessment in Cycle 2. So this gives you more information about student assessment. There are two main types that you need to have, which are the formative assessments, and it explains it. And I like how they word it here. It's assessment for learning. So the formative is throughout your teaching. And then there's the summative at the very end, your last lesson of what you're doing, and it's the assessment of learning, which is noted right here. So when you design, so Cycle 2 is designing a learning segment, which is 3 to 5 lessons that build on each other. Throughout the learning segment, you'll have many formative assessments. You'll have one summative assessment at the very end. The very last lesson will have that summative assessment. But you need to have multiple formative assessments throughout the entire learning segment. All right. And then it needs to be content specific. So your single subject, you have a content area. It needs to be about that content area. It cannot be about generalized things, about knowing your students or um, feeling good about being at the school. Those are all important things, but this learning segment needs to be about your specific content area. Then it provides an overview of each step. So I'm not going to read all the way through this. I'm just going to point out that you should read through it and click on the different links so you can better understand the different aspects of what the explanation is providing you. So here, step one, plan, just like in step or in cycle one, it starts with planning. However, planning was a major emphasis in cycle one. While it's still important here, it doesn't weigh as heavily on your final score. There are two rubrics connected to step one, and that's the focus of this video. I'm going to go in depth with the step one plan. Then there's step two, where you teach and assess. Those are your videos. Step three, when you reflect on what you learned, and then application of what you learned. Evidence table, this is a great table, like a quick overview. What do I need to do for the steps? What do I need to submit? So here, what do you need to do? Step one, with guidance and support from your cooperating teacher or supervising faculty, gather and review recent available content-specific assessments and other contextual information about your students. So it's similar to cycle one, getting to know your students. And you will utilize the people around you to help get access to any information you need, learning about the students, if they have IEPs, 504s, what are on those documents, if they're English learners, what are their LPAC scores, things like that, that are very important to know about so you can plan an effective lesson or lessons. And then you also need to select a focus student. Your focus student here is different. It's just one, and it is someone who is an English learner, or they have an IEP or a 504, or they need additional supports. So you're going to choose the focus student. We'll go in more detail about that. This is just the overview of it. You also need to describe 3 to 5 content-specific lessons. That's your learning segment, 3 to 5 lessons, including the assessments that you'll use in them that show a progression of learning. Each lesson must include a content-specific learning goal and an ELD goal. And what you're going to submit for step one is a written narrative. That's a template on the contextual information. If you are using the same group of students from cycle one to cycle two, you'll see a lot of overlap. You can utilize some of the same information. You cannot copy and paste it, but you will have that knowledge of your students already. And so that part A should be fairly straightforward for you, up to 4 pages. Always go by the page limits. Do not go over 4 pages, even if it is by something like 2 sentences. Just stick to the 4 pages or less. Part B is your learning segment template. This is your overview of your lessons, your 3 to 5 lessons, and it can be up to 5 pages per lesson. Part C is your written narrative description of the assessments. This is describing your formative assessments and then that summative assessment. And part D is a description or blank copy of one summative assessment and the rubric or performance criteria. So for that one, if you have a standalone document, that's a summative assessment at the end. It's a handout or it's a printout that has been done, a series of questions online. You would just provide a blank copy and then also the rubric that you use to score that. You must have a rubric for your summative assessment. If your summative assessment is, let's say, a performance, then you can just describe it, uh, and you would explain what the assessment is in detail and provide the rubric. And we're not going to go into all of these, but you'll see step two, step three, and step four. I do have other videos where I go into detail about the other steps and we focus on that. So going on, focusing on step one, you will see here it provides the essential questions and the rubric focus. So for step one plan, there are 2 rubrics. The first rubric is about how you leverage student assets, including assessments, and address appropriate content-specific and ELD goals. The next rubric, 2.2, is how you plan the segment in which you have assessments, instructional strategies, learning activities, and they all align to the progression of learning. So they're building on each other. So your two scores are based on those two different areas. We'll scroll down and focus on plan. So you are planning a learning segment. This is 3 to 5 lessons with assessments throughout, and you have a focus student. And remember, you are choosing one group. So if you are teaching multiple periods a day, you're just going to choose one group of students. You don't need to choose all of your students. So you choose that one group, you have your focus student in that one group, and you conduct your learning segment. The first template is getting to know your students, the contextual information, just as it is important for every educator to understand what do my students know, what are they interested in, what are their assets, and how can I build on those? So you're first starting with explaining who your students are. And you'll do that. And you'll also provide recent information about their levels and skills and abilities in terms of what you're planning to teach your content area. Here is a link for YouTube to help you with getting to know your students if you need ideas on how to do this. So, great resource. Anytime you see these green boxes, I highly recommend you go through them because they are added resources to help you be successful. Okay, we'll scroll down again. Another call out box green about how, like, what the cultural and or linguistic assets and or interests are. Go through that if you are unsure about what that means. And then these are the points that are going to be on that template. You are going to explain the age range, grade level, your student assets, uh, your English learners, on and on. And here's another call out box to help you. And then for your focus student in template A, you are going to be also writing about your focus student. And this is the information that you'll need to provide uh, about them if they're an English learner, they have a disability, and you're going to provide age and grade level, their assets. So do not focus on what students do not know. You need to focus on what they do know. And then their interest and then their skills and ability in terms of the content that you're teaching. Okay. We're going to scroll down now. The learning segment, that's the next template, template B. So you are going to, it's basically your lesson plans for your 3 to 5 lessons. It doesn't matter if you choose 3, 4, or 5. It's not better to do more or worse to do less. You just need to choose what's best for you and make sure within those 3 to 5 lessons you can showcase your great teaching and that you can do all the things necessary for a learning segment for Cycle 2. So you're using the information that you know about your students and then you're building the lesson plan. And here is another YouTube to help you where you can watch it on how to lesson plan, how to create a strong lesson plan. I highly recommend you watch that as well. And you're going to summarize how your lesson uh, applies the findings from previous, so how it builds on their prior knowledge, explain how it fits in the larger scope of the sequence. So they want to know that you're not just randomly teaching things like, oh, here's one day and here's another day. They want to see that it's continuous and it's building on each other. So you wouldn't just throw students into something. They would need some foundational knowledge and you would build upon that to move on. So you need to show that you're doing that. And for each lesson in your learning segment, you're going to provide the grade level, content standard. So you'll put the standard, and there's a call out box to show you how to do the standard. You should have already done this in your program as well in multiple classes, and here you're using it. And then you're going to provide the learning goals and provide an ELD standard for the lesson as well, and the ELD learning goal. So you have your content standard, content learning goal, ELD standard, and ELD learning goal. And then you're going to describe the lesson and following these prompts. These prompts are in a template, so you just go through them and answer them all. Uh, they're not looking for a perfectly uh, it's not an essay that you need to write. It really needs to be an authentic, your voice. You are explaining what is going to happen in these lessons and how you're making adaptations as well to support specifically your focus student. And here are those call-out boxes that I just referred to on how to write the standards and learning goals. So you'll see that example here. You'll see that they are all related, but they are written differently. You should not be copying and pasting each one. They shouldn't have the same uh, exact words. If you do that, it will be marked down. So make sure they're distinctly different, but all related. And this gives you an example of how to do that. Okay, as well as this call out box. The next template is part C, written narrative. This is a description of the assessments. So you are going to describe how you're assessing learning. You have it within your learning segment, but here you're going to expand on it and just showcase that you know how to assess learning in different ways. So here you're going so throughout the learning segment, plan to use formative assessments to gather evidence for learning, monitor student content specific learning and English language development, provide specific actionable feedback to students during instruction, and adjust your instruction as needed. So they want you to always be assessing. This could be observations, purposeful questioning, it could be an exit ticket, it could be a handout, and then you look at it. It could be a whiteboard that they hold up. It could be polling on different online different educational technologies. Uh, it's this feedback to you to let you know are the students getting it or not? And if they're not, I'm going to adjust instruction before they're formally assessed at the end in that summative assessment. You want to be able to adjust and say, uh-oh, students aren't getting it. I'm gonna reteach this little part, or I'm going to do something a little different, adjust my instruction, so then they'll get it and they'll be successful on that final assessment. Okay, so you are going to describe your formative assessments, and then you're also going to describe the summative assessment. And here you can see if you choose to do a student self-assessment, which is fabulous, that's considered formative assessment. And you will need to explain how the student self-assessment provides opportunities for the students to build an awareness of what they have learned. Sometimes people get this confused and they make it all about the teacher. This is what I learned from the student self-assessment, but really student self-assessment is about students learning about where they are in the process of meeting the learning goals. So just make sure you're aware of if you are using the student self-assessment, you explain it in terms of what the students are gaining from it. And then the summative assessment, you're going to explain that. And then the final thing for step one is a blank copy of the summative assessment or a description. So if it's not a tangible thing, if it's like a performance, uh, then or something or a process that you would need to describe because you don't have, it's not a handout necessarily. If you do have an actual handout, a product that they do, or they put something together, then you would provide a blank copy of what that is. So that would be a product that they're going to do. And then you're also going to include a rubric that you would use to grade that summative assessment. So those are the two items that you have to submit for Part D. And it's a blank copy and a blank rubric. And here it explains the different types of summative assessments. This is really great if you're thinking, wait, what does process mean, or product, or performance? This gives you really concrete examples to explain like what that means. And then for making a rubric, this is a YouTube video to help you with making rubrics. So, highly encourage you to do this. If you are not familiar with rubrics, you have been exposed to rubrics throughout the program, so you should have some sense of it, but it's always great to have a resource to remind you of what this actually means and what you need to do for the CalTPA. So, in as an overview, your evidence to be submitted for Cycle 2, Step 1 for single subject candidates is the template for the contextual information up to 4 pages, your learning segment template up to 5 pages per lesson, written narrative of the description of assessments, that's also a template up to 5 pages. And then there's no template for Part D. It's a description or a blank copy of one summative assessment and the rubric. So at the very end of your learning segment, you are doing a summative assessment. You include the blank copy and the rubric that you're going to use to grade it. And that is step one. I hope this has been helpful in navigating cycle 2 and getting through that first step. The other steps are covered in other videos, and I highly encourage you to watch those as well.